Hello, Casey from interwebkaiju here. Today is another Buy Me a Coffee request from Spencer at Avid Gods. He requested Ghidorah, three-headed monster. Space monster Ghidorah in this version, comes to Earth and Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan team up to defeat him. Mothra and Godzilla fought each other in the previous movie, and now Rodan is also brought in. That's three monsters who had solo movies all together in one film. It's good. A shared universe that personally I think is only bested by the classic Universal monsters. Music is great. Big fan of the lighting when the princess is being taken over by the alien. Nothing extravagant, but works well and is memorable. Also love how she just walks out of a moving plane and then it explodes. Ghidorah falls to Earth in a meteorite, and the film spends some time on that before the monster comes. It's mysterious and interesting, not just a rock, it's visually bizarre and magnetic enough to pull pickaxes and such to it. So, in-movie people and audience are trying to figure out what it is while the possessed princess is warning of the monster. It's just a good setup for Ghidorah before he's on screen. Sure, you probably saw him on the cover or poster, but seeing him move around on film is different than a still photo. He is odd, and I say that in the best way. Bipedal winged three-headed dragon that shoots lightning described as gravity beams, imaginative, and the gold really does round out the grandness of him. Though, there is something endearing about his original color scheme that can be seen in production photos. Unrelated, I prefer this bibbity to a roar and this mane to bare horns. Love in general how the necks just crazily wiggle around. Also, on the topic of personal opinions of versions, Peanuts are my favorite Mothra fairies by far. Comedy surprisingly works, and doesn't really feel out of place. Quick shout out to this great shot. Neither a pro or a con, but Godzilla still has his smoky spray breath here, not yet going fully rotoscoped. Ghidorah the three-headed monster isn't perfect. Bringing in aliens to the series alone may put some people off, but there's also a lot of odd technical stuff going on as well. Projection techniques can be unsteady and very uncharacteristic of Showa Toho in general. There's times when the camera focus is wrong. And not just briefly. There will be people in the foreground and background with a person in between talking, but instead of the focus being on them, they're blurry with the person in the background being more sharp. This could possibly be due to the rushed production. This was actually made the same year as Mothra vs. Godzilla due to a different film not being able to make Toho's holiday schedule. In this English version at least, Rodan does a Godzilla noise when he first appears. Super brief, but also super weird. I'm a big fan of this approach to cinematic universes where the monsters or larger-than-life characters are introduced in previous movies, but the storyline is pretty much self-contained. You can still jump in, quickly understand the pre-established characters, and be entertained without having to worry about what happened when and in which movie. Looking at you, current state of the MCU, one odd thing may be the reoccurring actors as different characters. This is due to Japan's acting contracts at the time, but this movie especially has a lot of familiar players from the franchise. It may be confusing to some. There's plenty of visible wires. The matte painting of the mountain doesn't look convincing in the zoomed shots. Oh, and Godzilla here looks bad. Here too. Just whatever this guy is. When people talk about personnel involved with the Godzilla franchise, they usually mention film director Ishiro Honda, musical composer Akira Ifukube, and effects director Eiji Tsuburaya, and that's because not only were they the first, but in my opinion and many others, made the best products, and this is one of them. Ghidorah the three-headed monster is a must-see. The story is wacky enough to be interesting, the movie is constantly moving forwards towards the big monster brawl. Godzilla is an anti-hero, in the middle of his transition from Earth's worst nightmare to its supersized savior, and the fight pays off, a spectacle of a finale. So that was Ghidorah the three-headed monster, definitely a must-see. Again, I want to thank Spencer at Avid Gods. Thanks for watching.
These monsters are as stupid as human beings.